David, you want to handle this?
The short answer is the contract. You can contract for whatever you want. If they're offering you certain terms, if you accept them, and if you like them and you're willing to accept them, you'll sign off accepting them. If you don't like them, you're going to either try to negotiate different terms or you're not going to accept. The problem is, and we've all been, well, I say we, Michael and I have both been there before when we've started our careers. It's always very difficult. There's often an inequality in bargaining power between someone looking to start a career and get a foot in the door and build their professional experience versus someone who's been around and has an established business for 10, 15, 20 years. So how much push and how much fight can you have? If someone says, I'm hiring you and putting a fixed term on it, if you agree to that, that's your term. You're there for a year, but there's never a minimum or maximum. It's what the parties agree to at the end of the day. Is that of assistance?
Oh, you want to know, are you stuck? The answer is, some contracts, yeah, you're stuck. Why? Because they didn't include what we consider to be a termination clause in there, where you can say, hey, dentist, for these following reasons, I'm going to end this agreement. And one of the reasons could be, I'm just going to give you a week's notice and it's done. Or, something popped up, family-wise. So make sure the agreement that you're signing has a way out, right? Dentists do that. The other thing I wanted to say was, David picked up on it. Dentists, these guys hold a lot of power. They're the one who's going to pay you, right? But they're also looking for highly qualified people, not just in terms of the skills that you have, but personality. Are you good with patients? Are you nice to work with? And if you are the right fit, they will negotiate an agreement with you. Like, it's not this or nothing. You can actually say, that non-solicitation clause for 2 years, could you make it 6 months? And they'll think about it and they'll say, well, does this mean you won't sign on to it if I don't change it to 6 months? And you say, well, I prefer it. And they say, okay, fine. Cross 6. As an independent contractor, the contract should dictate how both parties can end the relationship. If it does not, then your options are, A, either come to a new agreement about that agreement, about how to terminate, or one of the parties will simply say, you know what, I'm leaving. You want to sue me, sue me. I don't care. The reality is, and you guys should realize this, you can get sued by anybody over anything. However lack of merit there is, and David's in court a lot, he'll tell you people sue for the strategic reasons, even though they know they're going to lose, just to ruin your day. So think about those things. Yes, sir. It depends. It depends on, have I said it depends? This is like the key word of the day. With the law, it always depends, right? Because first of all, laws change, and second of all, you need to understand the full situation. So have you signed a non-solicitation or non-competition agreement with that first dentist? If you have, and if it says you can't work for a period of time after you leave with another dentist, then you take your chances of getting sued.
But I believe the question was if you're fired or if you the question was if you're fired or you quit.
Yeah, you quit.
Okay, if you quit, because now because difference between fired and quitting as well. It depends on sort of that global picture. Does the contract provide for a certain scenario in the event of an event happening, whether it be quitting or being fired? This is why, if you've ever wondered why there's too many lawyers in the world and why it seems to be a sort of a self-supporting organization, is because every contract is, if you tried to do a contract that accounted for everything, it would be 50,000 pages long and you'd still have lawyers arguing about it. In the particular circumstances of any case, you really go back and look at the enabling document. So you look at your contract. It's really, if you've ever played Monopoly or chess, what are the rules of the game? You look on that sheet. That will inform everything, and from there, that's your starting point. So to answer your question, lawyer speaking, I don't know until I see or hear your entire fact pattern or I've reviewed that document. In that case, I'll say to you, you know what, in the event that you were terminated, you get to go work wherever you want. They can't restrict you if you're fired. If you voluntarily quit, that's a different story, because now you're saying, I'm not working with you, I'm sort of canceling out the contract, but you're still bound, and often a well-drafted contract will say the terms of the contract will survive termination of the relationship, and often, such as these restrictive clauses, the non-termination, the confidentiality clauses, those sorts of things survive beyond. So again, you'd want to look at that, whatever the document is that you've signed off on.
Moral of the story, check the contract, consult a lawyer. Everything depends, right? You got a question in the back, or are you just stretching? Okay, I'm going to ask you guys a pop question now. You've got this wonderfully, clearly drafted agreement that you're going to sign, and you sign it, and then the next week the dentist changes everything on you. Does that count? Is Is that valid? Can he do that? Can he change the terms unilaterally? What do you guys do? What do you guys think? Who haven't I picked on? Sir, third from the back. Yeah. What do you think? Is it valid for them? What's that? You signed the original, the dentist signed the original, now he's trying to change everything. Okay, that is a partially correct answer. And I'll tell you why. It was a good answer. You've got an agreement in place. Now the doctor's trying to change stuff. It's partially correct because you have a choice. Are you going to accept the changes, or are you going to reject them and say, hey, you're now violating that other agreement, right? There's also something, and here's another question. I'm going to give you half points on that one, but you had no clue whether you were right or wrong, so it doesn't matter. Here's another one, okay? Don't worry, we'll talk later. He'll love me. Okay, so here's another situation now. The dentist promises all these things to you, which they will, and then throws a contract in your face that's completely different. So you signed this agreement, but you were kind of relying on what he had spoken about beforehand. What do you do in that situation? Does what he spoke about beforehand make part of this new agreement? Is it left out? Is it just the agreement that counts? What do you do? What do you think? Who haven't I picked on? Why are all these eyes turning away from me every time I do this? Yes, I like the vision. You're looking right at me. No, you. Yes. Go for it.
I'll be honest, I need a question. I was daydreaming.
It's okay. I'm trying to daydream.
Scare them with the answer.
Okay, here's the answer. Actually, Lisa, you're going to give us the answer. What do you think?
It depends.
Wow. Perfect. Now you guys know how to answer everything. Every other question is it depends. What does it depend on? It depends on
Terms of the contract.
why.
Because in a lot of contracts, you'll have standard terms and standard clauses that everyone just puts in the contract because they should be there. And one thing you should keep an eye out for is something called an entire agreement clause. The words entire agreement will usually show up at the back. They won't be in big font or small font. It'll just be slipped right in there somewhere. And if that's in there, it will usually say 99 times out of 100, if you want changes to the contract, it's got to be in writing, and anything that was said before doesn't count.
Entire agreement clause. Yes, ma'am.
Like
a probationary period?
Yeah.
Yes, and this is an interesting thing. Are you an employee or an independent contractor? Employees, this is the beautiful thing that dentists love to do. If they're going to hire you guys on as employees, they're going to put you on probation. Guaranteed for the first 3 months. Why? Because if they fire you or if things don't work out, they don't owe you anything.
But it works for us as well. If I'm not happy there. Then
Correct, but if you are an employee and you work 3 months and a day, all of a sudden you're entitled to something called notice or payment in lieu of notice. Remember, if you're an employee, you're this protected servant. 3 months is the magic number. If it's before 3 months, dentist gets rid of you or you leave, they don't owe you anything. After 3 months, if they terminate you unjustly, they owe you because that law says they owe you. Now, if you're an independent contractor, doesn't matter. You don't have any protection. It's whatever that contract says. So, does that make sense?